everyone, and welcome to our last lesson of topic 4. Today we're going to talk about a fifth way to prove triangles congruent, and that is the HL theorem, the hypotenuse-leg theorem. So this is a special case situation in which where side-side angle actually will work, and there are three things that will allow our two triangles to be congruent by hypotenuse-leg, and that's having two right triangles, so you have to see a right angle marked on your picture or be given. Congruent hypotenuses, so the side across from that right angle would be congruent, and then one set of the legs would be shown as congruent. So it's the unique situation in which side angle works. Again, that angle though has to be a right angle in each of those. So we have some examples here of where hypotenuse leg could be used to prove our triangles congruent. So we want to look here on our first couple examples. What would be the way that we can prove the triangles congruent? So using the 4 that we had before or HL. So if we look at our first example, okay, notice we have a pair of right angles, we have the hypotenuses, and we have a set of the legs congruent. So this is a side angle situation, but again, this is hypotenuse leg officially because we have those right angles showing the right triangle. So this is a situation in which HL would work. In the second example, we are going to be sure to start by marking our vertical angles congruent because we have vertical angles here. So those are both right angles. Again, keeping in mind, these could then be right triangles. The hypotenuses across from those right angles are congruent. So we have right triangles, we have the hypotenuses, and then we have one set of legs. This is another example where HL would work out. Example C, we're going to mark our vertical angles congruent. And we don't know if those angles this time are right angles. Right? They might be, but they're not marked. And they don't tell us anything about segments being perpendicular or anything like that. So we just know that those angles are congruent. And then we have another pair of sides and another pair of sides. So again, we have side, angle in the middle, side for both triangles. So this is going to be a situation where we use side, angle, side. And in our last example, we do have a pair of right angles congruent. We have a pair of sides congruent, or pair of legs there, but we're given another pair of angles congruent. So this is not going to be HL because even though we have a right angle, it doesn't necessarily mean that just because we have right angles that we use HL. In this case, we only have a pair of legs, but we do have another pair of angles. So we have angle, side in the middle, angle. Again, notice that side is the one connecting our angles. So this is an example of angle, side angle. So just because we see right angles does not mean that we are going to always use hypotenuse legs. So right angle may or may not be HL. Okay, so don't just assume because you see a right angle, it's always hypotenuse leg. We see in a couple of these examples, that's not the case. All right, there are 2 on the back for you to try. You are going to state if the following triangles are congruent, and if so, by what method. All right, our last examples with dealing with these triangles are going to be asking us to state what additional piece of information we would need in order to be proving our triangles congruent by HL this time. So notice in example A, they gave us that these were right triangles, so we have the right angle in each. We are able to say that this reflexive side is congruent. That would be a pair of legs. In order then to get this congruent by hypotenuse leg, we would need those hypotenuses congruent to each other. So again, we need the hypotenuse congruent. So in this case, we would say we would need xj, side across from our first right angle, congruent to xy, the side across from the other right angle, the hypotenuses. In letter B, again, we are able to assume the vertical angles are congruent, so we don't need that information given to us. What we are also given is that RJ and JI are congruent. So we have the right angles given, we have this time the sides across from those right angles, the hypotenuse is congruent. So this time we need a pair of legs congruent. So this time we actually have two choices. We need a pair of legs. So we either need option 1, which would be RH congruent to JH, that pair of legs, or we would need the other pair of legs congruent. So that would be HQ and HI. So this one actually is unique because there's two different sets of legs that we could need congruent. So this one has two possibilities. All right, on this last one, it is you try example. All right, you know the reflexive side, you are given that. What else would need to be congruent in order for these to be congruent by hypotenuse leg? Our last example together here today is going to be a proof, all right, proving our two triangles congruent, so reviewing that. So first step is always to write down our given information, either as one step or two. I'm going to write these as one step today. And again, this is my given information. And notice I was given something congruent, so I'm going to mark that on my picture to start MP and MQ. Now, the other bit of given information is that we are given two segments are perpendicular to each other, aka we are creating right angles. So that's my second statement, is that I know angle MNP and angle MNQ are right angles. Now, why do I know that? Well, that's the definition of perpendicular. All right, we know that by the definition of perpendicular, these are two right angles. Thus, that helps us by saying we have two right triangles, triangle MNP and triangle MNQ. Because they have those right angles, they are right triangles. And this is a qualification for hypotenuse leg. Now, the other bit of information we are allowed to then assume from this picture is that side MN is congruent to itself by the reflexive property. Oops, forgot step 3. Which if we end, this is again definition of right triangle. If you have a right angle, then you're a right triangle. So this is a situation in which our two triangles are congruent by hypotenuse leg, because we have two right triangles stated. We have the hypotenuses stated congruent, that was given information, and we have a pair of legs stated as congruent. So there's the legs, there's the right triangles, here's the hypotenuses, stated congruent up here. So when you have all three pieces, then you're allowed to say these two triangles are congruent to each other by the HL postulate or theorem. All right, we will definitely be working more with all of this in class. Thanks everyone for watching.